The worst memory, let's start with that because I'm specialized in bad things, of course. The worst memory was when I was with a friend, I was 6 then, playing in the street, and apparently we were climbing on a wall that belonged to a house that was used by the Dutch National Socialist Party. So let's say a house that was Nazi-oriented. And then a Kugelwagen came in, like a German Jeep, and basically with soldiers, Dutch and German, but they were the Dutch were working for the Germans, so they were also in German uniforms, but one of them was talking Dutch, basically, so he was a kind of a collaborator, and basically say, come off this wall, and when we climbed off the wall, they say, put your nose against the wall, and we're going to shoot you. And then we did that, and then they started all laughing and basically say it's a joke. So that was, and I peed in my trousers. I came home and say, Mommy, I'm peed in my trousers. And then when I explained to her what had happened, of course they got frightened because it sounded, it could have been the other way, isn't it?
It's true.
I mean, there was not always, let's say, an enormous humanistic aspect to the German occupation, isn't it, clearly. So that's the worst memory. I think the good memories is probably when my father, in 45, when there was no food in Holland anymore, because we were, the northern part of Holland was still occupied by the Germans. The southern part was liberated, but had been stopped, the armies had been stopped at Arnhem, bridge too far, isn't it? They couldn't go over the Dutch rivers, they were too broad, they couldn't just do that. So then the northern part of Holland was very isolated, there was no food anymore. My father would go regularly, basically from The Hague, on an old bicycle with wooden wheels often, would go to the countryside to find some bread. And I remember when he came back completely exhausted, of course, in the evening, because this was 30, 40 kilometers back and forward on an empty stomach often, of course, because there was no food, when he would bring something home, like a piece of cheese or a piece of sausage, whatever, and that I was only child, so I was with my parents, there were 3 of us. And I remember that we would then, when he would open the little bag, that we would all hold each other and dance around the table. That were the good moments, that there was some bread on the table or something special, like a little piece of sausage. I can see it in front of me, the sausage basically. It was a little piece, not more than this, you know, this small. But I remember that we were dancing there because it was exceptional in January 45 to get anything on the table. Okay. My mother survived the war, but she had hunger edema. All her legs were swollen up because of the lack of food. I mean, that disappeared fortunately, but when the liberation came. But many people in Holland starved, really, because the Germans took the food and sent it to the Eastern Front, isn't it? To well, whatever the Eastern Front was, that was already close to Berlin then, of course. But and for the rest, it was basically no food came into the country anymore. So there was only food taken out of the country.